Hello, everyone. I'm Tracy Derwin, and I'm here with Shane Buell and forensic arborist Robert Brame, who has been on my channel before. Today, he's going to share his experience with images from his time in Chinese camp. Now, we did a video a few months ago about that, and there were some kind of unusual anomalies, and he actually went there and spent some time there. So he's going to share what he saw. And after the presentation, he had a few very interesting conversations with the residents there and what they thought caused this fire. So thank you, Robert, so much for being here again. Robert has 50 years of experience as an arborist. His passion is to hike and camp all over California, and he knows pretty much every tree, shrub, plant, and he's been a really great resource for what we do here. And I'll link his previous video we did back, I think that was back in November of last year, and it's one of my most viewed, my number one shared video of all time.
Wow.
So please check that out. Yeah, it's I would say top five as far as the amount of views, and by far, I think it's been shared 20,000 times. So that is really a sign that people found value in that video. So thank you, Robert, and I'll let you share what you found.
Wow. That's amazing. 20,000. I have no
Mhm.
idea. Wow. Well, if you want, I will go ahead and share my screen. 2 weeks ago, I went up to Chinese camp. It's only a 2-hour drive from me because I saw anomalies on the internet and I knew right away that it was going to be one of these attacks, or not the best term, but I call these attacks on humanity. So I drove up there and it was 93 degrees. It was very hot out. Got out of my truck, and this property here happened to have 3 or 4 eucalyptus trees in a row. And I'm going to start on trees because that's kind of my strong suit here. Eucalyptus trees are very flammable. The leaves you can light on fire with a cigarette lighter in your hand, and that's a green leaf. A dead leaf will burn like any leaf very quickly. But as you can see, the two trees in the middle ground here, leaves are on the ground or touching it, very close. They refuse to combust. I don't know any plant that is so flammable that it'll light on fire with a cigarette lighter. I hold this at number one position as far as combustibility rates. And that's any of the species we have in California, which is perhaps 10 different species. So I saw that, I had to take a picture. And here's a close-up of more of the leaves. They're right off the ground. Some of them coming up here are actually even touching the ground. What I find is the trunks and lower down, right next to the ground, I'll see the eucalyptus burned, sometimes right through the trunks, as well as all the other species of trees. Here the leaves were touching the ground, actually.
Wow.
And then
How much
weird
time
dirt,
had passed between the fire and your visit?
probably only 3 to 4 weeks before. They weren't letting people in, and I finally found on the computer that they would let you go in now and drive around. Perhaps 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
It wasn't a gigantic fire. I think it was designed just to take out this town. And then if you look low on the trunk, it turned black again. And in this area, there's hardly any grass. Just amazing what can happen with this type of weaponry.
Yeah. And you said eucalyptus is more flammable than even the bay?
Yeah, California Bay is very flammable, but this one is more. It's
Okay.
just amazing. I used to have fires for years around the San Francisco Bay Area at little campgrounds here and there. And anytime you took eucalyptus leaves right off the tree, green, put them in your fire, and you've got instant flames. It'll help you get the fire going again. Most people know eucalyptus is one of the most flammable leaves on the planet. And here they are touching and laying on the ground, and this branch is not broken. It's attached to the trunk. It isn't
Wow.
just laying there. And the ground's black everywhere. The second tree up here I'm going to highlight is the digger pine. They took that name away because of the Digger Indians. So it's now either gray, bull, or foothill pine, a long needled pine of our foothills. Here, I didn't find any of them burned. Needles were on the ground. Fire went right past them, forgot to even burn them. Many of these at any height. This whole area here, a meadow, if you will, burned, and the trees, they turn brown, but they won't ignite. I've never seen that in 50 years of mountaineering and backpacking through the whole state. And the fire also was a really weird burn pattern, patches all over, instead of just burning across the field in a big line, maybe a misshapen line, but it was in patchwork. That was really odd. And up on the mountain, that's those pines right there on that ridge, those actually did burn up pretty well, but not to the right side, the north side, just down the high point where the ridge comes down. And perhaps that's because there's more wind that comes from both sides onto that narrow ridge. But nowhere else could I find them burned up. Here's the same gray pine. Incidentally, to the right of this is horrific. A house is gone and all these vehicles are toasted. But here, at most, it was a ground fire, and the trunk again burned. Needles, they would not combust. Same tree. And that goes for all the plant life around this whole Chinese camp. Couldn't find much really burned unless it held a lot of water. Same tree on the other side of the other side of the tree.
Yeah, wow. I would expect those needles and the leaves that were touching the ground as well to have burned.
Yeah. And I checked the branches, make sure there's no cuts up there where or rips down the middle or anything like that. They didn't even discolor. Then I move on to high water holding capacity trees, which oaks are they hold a ton of water, whether it's evergreen or deciduous. This is the oak of the lower foothills, called a blue oak in our area, a small to medium-sized tree, generally away from towns and communities. They're all about the same height wherever you go. This thing burned at the trunk, and I think the firemen actually got in here and dug around here. There's a lot of disturbance around the trunk. Leaves would not ignite. The lower trunks burned. I think they burned all the way through. I found a few of these. Across the meadow, there's some other ones. And then they just fell over. And I think they had quite a time putting the fire out at the root base down here. There's lots of holes and stuff. And blue oaks are very strong trees. They're very old and slow growing. They get low rainfall. They grow real slow. They don't have giant cavities unless it's the oldest tree in the forest. And I don't see cavities in these trees. This is a close-up, I think, of the same spot. I couldn't believe what it did. In this area, it's only grass, dead grass, and it was short. They either had cows or goats out here or sheep that ate the grass really short. There's just no way short grass could have done this to an oak tree.
Right. Yes, grass should only burn at a few 100 degrees.
That's right. And when it's that low of a fire, you can step over the flames and walk right past it.
Right.
I've done this and I've seen it out locally where they're burning weeds and stuff, and the fire department's watching it. They're just walking over the flames, and it's no big deal. This is a type of cypress. I didn't know which one. By itself, 2 or 3 out in the front. In the background, a house is, I think, missing, and the fire just kind of came down the fence line. Did this to only the lowest trunks of this cypress, discolored the needles, or leaves, if you will. Split the thing wide open 3-4 different directions, but refused to burn the needles. And I have various shots of that. There's in close. 2 or 3 of these things. Cypress are in the juniper family with all the false cedars, red cedars, incense cedars, so forth. Hold a lot of sap and are very, very drought tolerant. Survivors for the most part. But that's the only place they burned. And again, you see the grass in the background. It's very short. There's no way it could have done this to this tree. If anything, it would have burned some of the lower foliage, but that didn't even happen.
Right.
Now I want to get into the water lovers. This is an extreme water lover. If it's not a Lombardy poplar, it's a white poplar or balm of Gilead, one of the cottonwoods in the willow family. They hold a ton of water. In this backyard, nothing was burned here on the dirt. There's no blackened soil, just the tree where all the water or highest water holding amounts would be in the lower trunk and upper root system.
So for people less familiar about why that's unusual, we're pointing out things that normally resist fire. And it seems like, the water holding trees tend to burn first. or the trunk tends to burn from the inside out. It should be the opposite. It should be the leaves, branches, the outer part of the trunk, but it's going from the middle out.
That's true. I tell people often a glass of water in your microwave gets energized the quickest and heats up faster than a glass of chili. And here, the one that holds the most water is energized internally before a sappy pine that should burn first and not burn from the inside out, of course. And so I find this through all the highest water holding capacity trees, besides an oak, all the willow and cottonwood, which share the same family, and then the alder and birch, they share another family. Those are also extreme, where when they're planted, they have to have a water source or they're dying back. That's why in natural settings, you'll find all these trees in a spring, lake, pond area on the bank with their roots in the water, or front lawns in people's yards. They're not a drought tolerant tree at all. And that's the first one that burns at any location I've been to in 8 years. Same tree higher up, leaves discolored, dried, but refused to burn. And here's the thinnest, if you will, most flammable part of the tree are the leaves. You take a leaf like this and put it in your campfire, it's gone in 1 minute, a green leaf. Here's horrific flames. As you can see behind a home is missing. That was a home. Horrific hot flames, but it refused to burn the leaves. As well as all the foliage around here. There's a mulberry up front also. A different poplar with unusual burn patterns up on the sides of it. And I think your media giants would tell you, oh, well, it's the flying embers. That's their excuse for just about everything.
Do you know what that item on the bottom of the screen is?
A plastic chair right here on the right with the backing missing. So it melted a little bit, I'll say that. And that could be from these flames on the tree. I don't know.
Okay.
The wheelbarrow, I don't know if it was sitting there or not, which seems to be unscathed because the rubber tire is not missing or melted.
Okay. It is blue, the wheelbarrow.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into the blue also. All right. It's the same tree. No, it's a third tree. Weird, unusual burn pattern, same species, but here's your garden hose. I think the rubber on this hose would melt faster than that tree bark, being an extreme water lover. But there it is. Some of it's flattened and black. I do find a lot of garden hoses like this, and sometimes the only part that burns is at the ends where the metal pieces are that screw onto your hose bib, and the other end where you put your implement to water with. So I'll see that often.
Yeah, proximity to metals.
Yep. This was a tree of heaven, which was brought in from China and planted all over our mother lode along Highway 49. The Chinese brought them in for, I guess, shade trees. It's like balsa wood. It's one of the lightest woods you can find, and they break easily and usually grow perfectly straight up. This one burned at the bottom almost all the way through, and there was a few others like that. This holds another large amount of water. There it is. I think it was a metal shed here, an outbuilding, if you will. But that one burned up pretty bad. I might be
How many
mistaken.
structures were lost?
I was trying to look it up before we started. It wasn't a lot. It's 20 or 30, I believe. But this is the first gold mining town on the mother lode, Highway 49, that's been ever burned that we know of. And all the historic buildings from the 1800s were burned completely. And that might only be 6 through 12, or it's not too many buildings. I didn't include those in here because there was no anomalies I could pick out. But a half a dozen perhaps, and they're just done. They're gone. They're all fenced in now. Actually, I think this tree's a sycamore. This one has too many branches that are not right. So I think this one's a sycamore, which holds a lot of water. Sycamores grow next to creeks. This is actually the bottom of an olive tree. Olive trees are one of the hardest woods in the world. And again, in this area, there was hardly any materials to burn on the ground, yet it almost burned all the way through. When I cut these for a living with a chainsaw, this is one of the hardest things to cut, even a small one. Very, very dense hardwood. I don't know how a fire would get through that unless you put a firewood around it and really kept it going for hours. This is a eucalyptus. You can tell by the bark on the far right. A compacti, which is a subspecies of our big blue gums. Notice the heartwood in the middle, and it's already cracked. The white area was the sapwood with the newest growth, the newest energy. but the middle dried out very quickly and cracked already. Usually it takes a month or more in summer to dry out in any kind of firewood, but this is already cracked. Yeah, I had to include that because I'm finding more and more of the heartwood build up way too large for the age of the trees.
How much heartwood would you normally see?
And this guy is drought tolerant, and as young as it is, even 5, 6 feet, that's still a young tree. Perhaps 10 to 20%, but it could be
Oh,
even far less. These
yeah.
things get old and they just age very well. That's a lot of heartwood. This is a blue oak again, burned from the inside out, it looks like. Yeah, the bark on the left did not turn black. There could have been a cavity in here, but it went way inside. I found many blue oaks like this. And yeah. My brother was with me, my oldest brother, and he showed me the almond trees. There's a lot of wild almond trees that almonds fall off and plant themselves. They're very drought tolerant, a member of the rose family. This guy, everybody likes to use almond wood for firewood. All the dead wood on these little trees, these are short trees, 20 feet maybe, there's dead wood all over them. They didn't burn. None of this nice
Wow.
dry dead wood on the almond. I mean, I'm touching this right there. I'm not holding it up. There was some on the ground even. They refused to ignite. The driest thing. And there's many of these in lots of yards. They're not taken care of, so they're real hayseedy looking, and so much dry on them, they didn't burn. Okay, that's it for trees, I think. I want to get into the fences and all the hardware or fasteners. Mostly they're burning at the ground level and where the fasteners are. I tried to take the most blatant pictures because there was a lot of them. Some type of fencing. This has all your nails and all your fasteners to hold the wood together and hold the wire to the wood. This is what I find everywhere. I don't know what kind of wood these are made of. It seems to be happening whether they are painted or not.
Is the nail just gone, like disintegrated, or?
No, they're usually there. I can find them on the ground in a pile, or they're stuck somewhere on the wood. Like here, there's a couple nails right there in the middle.
Mhm.
Barbed wire generally doesn't do it unless there's 2 or 3 or more wraps of barbed wire around the spot. Then I'll see some deeper burning, or 3 or 4 nails. Depends on the composition of the nail or other hardware. The stainless, as you told me, Shane, there's a reason why stainless is not heating up. The covering it's made.
I do believe these metals are exhibiting electromagnetic induction, and it does depend on the type of the metal and how not only how conductive, but how magnetic it is as well. So it does
Okay.
vary depending on the type of metal.
Okay. And galvanized, I notice, like guardrails and stuff, they're not holding the flame. More of the same. The most burned areas happen to be where the metal is. And a lot of times it burns on one side of the wood. I see that everywhere, where the hardware is attached in general. These were planter boxes. Luckily, the guy's house was saved, but all your screws and stuff right on the corners.
Mhm.
And I see this often. This isn't just one anomaly. There's where you have lots of extra wire, but there's some metal in there that held the wood together. I just don't see it right now. I must have 100 of these pictures from the last 8 years. These little clips or staples, I guess they call them staples. Notice
Mhm.
where the flames were, not between them, just the metals. This was still there Monday when I came, or Tuesday I came through. Same boards, nobody's cleaned them up. Oh, that's a different one, yeah. Or farther down the line, just the staples are on fire. And then it just goes out. These flames refuse to leave the metal area and move off on their own and burn, wood without metals or liquids.
Yeah.
If it's a fresh 2x4 or something, it still has sap in it, moisture, those will burn.
Yeah,
But
you can see it doesn't go very far from the metal.
yeah, the top of the screws, there they are. This was around the other side. I don't have the picture, but it burned with a 2x4. This is a cross member in the middle of like a 6-foot fence. All the nails were where that 2x4 is. It burned there and that's it. Didn't climb the wood like it should have. Just goes out. Oh, I'm not sure if that's the other side or not. No, it isn't. It's a different one. Same sort of thing. You can tell where all the burning was. A couple of boards are missing. They fell out. But why would it burn in like that? Just following the nails. I didn't know
Right.
nails and screws attract flames.
It's such an unusual burn pattern to be repeated so many times.
Yep. And behind it, bamboo. There's always a degree of dead leaves on bamboo, which is a type of grass. They ignite in seconds. Here you have a flame that's been sitting here for a while. The bamboo just doesn't really want to ignite. Some smaller areas, of course, same old thing. I guess the flying ember is attracted to nails. Same spot. This one was something else. Again, where the nails are, it burned in there more than anywhere else, just where the hardware is. And this was there was some other ladies with me, and one of the ladies' brothers owns this house. That was okay. So we had permission to walk around, and anomalies all over. And at the bottom there's nails down there. And then it just stops. Yeah.
Mm.
A wooden painted fence with a big bolt there, some screws, and the ground just didn't have much for combustible materials. No.
Right.
Another one, I think the fireman threw dirt on it right where it was, but it's the junction of three boards with the nails and screws. And those U-shaped nails that pound in to hold the wire on, those I'll find often it'll burn way into the wood with those what do you call those nails? Double-edged nails or something.
So theoretically, if a piece of metal, like the nail is on fire, and maybe at the beginning, if you put water on it, can that make it bigger?
I don't know.
I have my doubts, actually. I think for the most part, water would help cool it and suppress the combustive flame, but it could also add heat to it as well, because if this is a microwave source, it will cause the water to absorb a lot of that and turn it into heat.
Mhm.
Yes, I was wondering about that. Yeah. Another planter box. Don't know where this was. Same screws. Everybody's using screws. They're quicker to put in. There's a metal mesh, chicken wire inside of this one. Perhaps it goes underneath the whole thing to keep gophers out of the whole area so they can't come up. And I just wonder that chicken wire, if it was energized also. Or there
Yes,
would be two or
probably.
three screws. Oh, there are two screws below. I see them now. Yeah, three of them down there. Okay. And the weeds and the leaves. Oh, I tell you.
Wow.
The back side of this didn't burn. Yeah, more of those same screws. And another one somewhere else. The backside, nope, not gonna burn. I guess once it's turned off, it just stops. This is on Highway 49 also. The town burned, but the fire came and crossed our major gold rush road, Highway 49. It crosses the Central Sierra at the foothill belt and connects all the old mining towns from the mid 1800s. So I'm standing on the road or on the bank, and all the way down the fence line, I can find anomalies. I'm just trying to pick out the better ones. I can tell that it was the hardware, but that metal T-post, I don't know how hot those get. Usually when I find one, anything close to it, even a foot away, will burn. Another different one, a little blurry. Sorry about that. There's a wrapping of wire, and then those U-shaped nails are hanging from the barbed wire. You see them hanging there. I think it's the U-shaped nails that did most of the damage.
Yeah, and I do agree that the wraps and the barbed wire will kind of act like a coil to better catch the electromagnetic waves.
That makes a lot of sense. Besides the background, which is a weed brought into America, it's called Spanish broom. It's a legume with very fragrant yellow flowers. PG&E must have come by because I have a friend that works for PG&E, and she says they spray retardant on the telephone poles so they don't burn. Well, did they just do it as the fire was going? Because the red repellent's still there. They saved their pole, and it burned right up to that area and stopped. So I don't know what to think about that. Did they come down the street when it was fire or as it was coming and sprayed their equipment?
Because normally that's one of the first things that comes down are the wooden power poles.
Right? A lot of times they're hanging
Yeah.
and the fire won't climb the pole. It burns the bottom. I was going to move on to other materials like the vehicles. It's the same sort of thing. I talked to a gentleman here on the left, and his house did not burn. I missed the trampoline over there. I didn't see that. I find many trampolines with only a few holes or none. Flying embers didn't mess with them. So this car's toasted out. The windows melted out starting at 2,500. The aluminum rims chunked out, and are just gone. That started at 1221, but probably much more above that. The tires are missing just the slinky-like steel belts. A lot of the same.
Door handle's gone.
Oh yeah. I'm just showing some aluminum next to a vehicle. This is the same truck. There's what your glass looks like when it melts,
Wow.
falls in onto the dash. Incredible heat.
Yeah, that's damning.
Wow. And it even discolored and has a chalky white look to it. I mean, a
Mhm.
window. And the firemen, I saw some firemen and I just didn't want to talk to them that day. Here's a lounge chair of sorts. All the fabrics were, I can't say they burned up. The plastic coating on top is kind of gone, but I don't see it melted there. And all the, whatever the stuff is inside, it's just, it didn't want to burn up. And there's plenty of metal on the chair, and even the
Mhm.
ties are hanging down. I left that in there. I don't know what to
Oh,
think about
wow.
it. I mean, there's a garden hose over there, and yeah. This is approaching the highway from town. The car's toasted, the gray pine here, they just wouldn't combust. And I've
Yeah.
seen these gray pines up on our mountain in our locally here, Mount Diablo, when we had some type of a natural fire, perhaps a decade ago. And there was one of my favorite digger pines like this, or gray pine, had its branches down to the ground. It was a nice big round one. The thing burned up and left a black pole in the middle with no limbs. That's how they burn.
That would be a normal burn pattern. Yeah.
Yep, a normal. And here, I've not seen that in any of these aftermaths. I've not seen that. I mean, maybe it had a few limbs left, big, large black limbs. Everything small was completely gone. I could hardly even tell there was a tree there. Just amazing what was left. But that was a natural one.
Was that a motorhome maybe next to the car
Um,
or a house or?
I think you're right. I see a framework there or a fifth wheel. There's many fifth wheels up here, and people's homes are so old and in disrepair. They sometimes bring in different campers, mobile homes, fifth wheels, and leave those on their properties. This guy just started to clean up, and he must have been a metal guy. He had metal pieces everywhere. The home was gone, but just metals everywhere. Even the wood fence down here, it kind of burned where the ends were. But I took it for the blues. The kids'
Hmm.
swimming pool and this other piece of blue. I mean, I don't think it was moved. The boards are laying on it. I think it's just the way it was. And there's even
Yeah.
some twine in there between them, some blue twine and some white with plastic coating.
And I do see what looks to be scorched material nearby.
Yeah. Underneath of it, there's black. It's just amazing how this can happen. And then wood, right behind the pool, there's some wood.
Hmm.
There was also locust trees in there in this area too, things with thorns. Somebody said it's a food grade container that's just kind of collapsed. Maybe it melted a little bit. Um,
Yeah, but it looks like the ground beneath it was on fire.
it's true. And so you think there'd be more melting.
Right.
Not happening. This one I really like, or hate. The fire came by. Here's the driest pallet you can get. It does have blue on it. And I thought, well, you never know. Let's play devil's advocate. So I had a friend lift it up to see if it was sitting in the dirt because there's no burn. And of course, it has nails too. It
Hmm.
didn't even get scorched, blackened, nothing. So she picks it up. No, it's dirt underneath. It's been sitting right through the fire.
It
And
looks
just
like there's even
amazing.
scorch underneath it.
I mean, even between it, yeah, in between it, there's black, right where
Uh-huh.
in the middle of the board. Unbelievable evidence.
Blue.
Behind it, there's another wood, but yeah, the blue, I kind of start wondering more about that. And black in the middle.
Hmm.
How do you do
Wow.
that without turning the palette at all black? Oh,
That's a good question.
somewhere else, I didn't know what that was out there. I just kept it because it was blue. There's some pipes, but yeah, way in the background is some other blue. Um, anyway, not much in that one. Here's your vehicles. This is the way I always find them. Never paint. Although once in a while I'll see a vehicle that's been toasted and it'll be half the car. An exact one door right up to the edge of the door and the door's shut and it's toasted. In the back door, brand new. The flames do not overlap at all. A perfect
Hmm.
straight line. Huh.
That door frame looks all mangled too.
Yeah, they haven't moved this car. There's a guy here with a little excavator, but he hasn't touched this one. I talked to him. He let us go on his property. Oh, and the county or city or this area told him, if you don't clean up your yard, you're going to get a fine for all this clutter and stuff. He's going to get a fine for not cleaning it up fast enough.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Nice
that's happening in
gentleman.
the Palisades. They have to clear all the brush from their property, or they get, I think it was a $700 fine, and it goes up from there.
Yeah. It'd be different if the vegetation was actually flammable. Well, in some things it's supposed to be, of course. Here's the almond
Right.
branch to the right. This is just laying there, and I don't think anybody broke it. The almond branch on the ground, it didn't burn. Look at that vehicle. And over in the back, a panel side, some type of truck.
I
Same.
wonder what material the hood was.
Oh yeah, that is melted out. Maybe aftermarket something. I don't know.
Hmm.
There's your windows. They must have got here and put it out. This scissor lift here, or whatever, the tire is partially burned, but maybe they got it out at some point. And there's your aluminum engine, intake manifold or whatever. It's melted out
Right.
and it's melting past this scissor lift or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are steel rims, but the aluminum flowing out does look like it's coming from the engine block.
Yeah, and it is downhill that direction. Incredible heat. Different, yeah, bamboo behind. I just took it for the vehicle. We find them always the same. Unless it's right next to a road and they get there quick, they all look like this. Look at the glass.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. And I don't know the temperature above 2,500. How much hotter does it get to accomplish this?
I would say at least a few hundred more degrees.
I would agree with you. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
another vehicle. Wow. Wow. Now this is a brand new shot from Tuesday. My girlfriend looked and said, Rob, look where the fire is. It's only under the metal wire.
Mm-hmm.
It came from right or left. I mean, down the wire fence line, not from the right or left where the teeny bit of grass is. And you see the grass, it's really nothing. It only followed that fence in this area. And behind me, it's a three-way split. The fencing goes three different directions. And I happen to see that's looking the other way now, under the wire. And then over there, it makes a right turn and goes to the west. Same thing again. That's it. I looked over the fence and took that picture. So your flames are following the wire? The bottom of that wood burned a little also, which is common. These are olive tree suckers that somebody planted. But how about that one? I didn't know fires like to follow metal.
Do you think the metal might have been on fire and that's what caused the surrounding area, or vice versa?
If not, the metal is some type of an attractant to make the fire surface, come up. I really don't know. I want to see the metals on fire, but I wasn't there, so I can only guess.
Well, when metals are struck by microwaves, it induces eddy currents through the metal, which causes resistive heating, which would cause the metal to heat up, and it would probably only scorch the grass within a certain radius
Okay.
from the metal. So yeah, so those metal fence lines there are probably scorching the grass.
Isn't that something? And that's looking farther to the south from I'm standing at the three-way intersection here with the wood. There it is again, following the fence line. Amazing stuff. Somewhere in town, most of your metals, and I think the gate itself was superheated. I think that's what did most of the damage, whatever it's made of. Plenty of water. There's actually U-shaped nails that are hammered in, but all on that side. And then down below, it's a horseshoe, it looks like. Wow. One-sided again. Different fence line somewhere else. The wood's kind of gone, but you can tell it only burned down the fence line. Incidentally, I heard three different people I interviewed that stayed there during the fire. One was a group of gentlemen that watched. Two other different ladies were in town, and all three of them said the same story, that after the fire started, it was 5 hours before the first fire truck rolled into Chinese camp. 5 full hours. And then two of the ladies said the firemen and women did not get out of their truck. They sat in their truck and they kept waiting for them. They wouldn't get out. So the public went to their trucks and unloaded hoses and stuff and tried to figure this out. And I don't know how they got the water on, but they put out the fires on their property themselves. Maybe
Wow.
the firemen got
Jeez.
out and turned the hoses on or something, who knows? But they refused to get out of the truck. They were told to stand down. And after they got there 5 hours late, the fire also came out of the west and headed towards town, directly at town. And it could have been prevented if it was put out by one of these planes dropping that red fire retardant. But the first plane showed up 8 or 9 hours after the fire started. All three people told me the same story. And they could have cut it off and it would not have touched the town. One plane could
Jeez.
have gone by and with a couple laps and they'd have it, a fire line of the red retardant. Instead, it came right to town. Yeah, damning evidence from these people that told me, and they didn't know each other. On Tuesday, these are the 3 different trucks I saw there that were, I don't know, pretending to clean up stuff. They were mostly standing around in big white suits, not doing much. I talked to one guy about cleaning up oil spills, he said, and batteries from cars. Not much else. All nice trucks, all the proper gear. That's another one. And then this one too. Environmental construction. So they were all here and trucks all over the place. I can't say they were doing much, probably getting paid well, but
Yeah, these are private, look like private companies.
maybe. And I just found the map here. In the middle where the red is, that's the fire. Came out of the west and headed to Chinese camp. The planes could have cut it off and done far less damage. But 8 or 9 hours later, and high winds, incidentally, all the old historic buildings are burned up completely. I don't know how many that is. I think I already said that, didn't I? Yeah,
And that's something we see with a lot of these fires is the historical buildings that we think because of the cultural significance, they can't just, knock those down and redevelop. But if it's taken down by a fire, then they have to.
it's true. And they have all kinds of rules against messing with historic buildings. That happened last June at the Corral fire over on Highway 5. Only one house was lost, the oldest house in the tract that had all the trees.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
And I believe they owned the whole property and they needed to sell a bunch of it off, for taxes and so forth. And they built a development right there around them, perhaps 30-year-old homes. And theirs is the only home that burned to the ground from a grass fire. Oh,
Hmm.
anomalies were everywhere there.
Yeah, you really don't expect grass fires to ignite homes.
Yeah. And anomalies everywhere. I just happened to, that's only 40 minutes from my house. So this last week I was on a mountain trip on the other side of the Sierra, and I remembered there happened to be a fire at Mono Lake, the east side of the Sierra Nevada, east of Yosemite National Park. And this was this last May, which is a very wet time of the year for this altitude. This is where all your springs are that come out of the Sierra and head east into the lake. And they have a county or state park here. The northwest corner of Mono Lake has a beautiful park, lawns everywhere. Everything's wet. There's nothing dead. And they happen to have these giant cottonwoods and willow trees there. Both species are giant. And again, weird bird patterns burned at the bottom. Sometimes these trees were 100 yards from where the fire was. It crossed
Wow.
all this green grass. And this is a new picture. That's how green it is. In May, there's even more water. The creek
And
I'm
these are the water lovers too, right?
Oh yeah, this holds I'm not sure which cottonwood this is. White on the back. I think it's a white cottonwood. Regardless, it's in the Populus genus and it holds the most water. These things just you cut them open and water's just geysering out. And there was nothing combustible in this area. Nothing on the ground burned, just the lower trunks. And same tree, playground of plastic, nothing got touched. Even the wood behind it, nothing got touched. Yeah. There's Mono Lake on the left and looking west towards Yosemite, kind of with the highway going by. There was so much greenery here and water-loving plants. There should have been nothing on fire. This is across the street. The fire went through the sagebrush, and that will burn pretty quick because it holds a lot of tinder, a little dead stuff, and it's low to the ground. That's about the only plant that I believe should have burned up. But here it crossed these meadows, and now this is October, and it's still green. This was mushy, wet as can be in May. You probably walk out there and get stuck, get your feet stuck in the mud. But
Yeah, the
here's the
meadow
giant,
looks unburned.
yeah, next to the park again. Like, how'd the fire get to this? They've done some tree work already. Now here's that, I don't know if it's a bathroom or a snack shop or whatever it is. The whole wooden building refused to burn. And here, past it with green all around me, was a giant willow. I don't know the species of this one. I believe it killed it and cooked it internally as well as just under the bark there. I didn't have that many pictures of it. It was raining on me, but everything's green around it. Like, why'd the fire go to this tree? Just the tree that holds the most water, and it looks dead. It should have leaves on it. It's a willow, but only in it. I don't have a close up of the trunk. At the middle, it burned internally, and this thing's ready to fall apart. But greenery everywhere. How'd the fire get there? I'll bet 150 yards to the west, to my left, is where the fire was. Out in the middle of the lawn, weird burn patterns. Grass did not burn. No way. They always keep this park very nice. Behind it is the row of Lombardy poplars, which is another species in the Populus genus. They were fried. Oh, maybe I don't have a picture, but there they are in the background. They were all cordoned off because they need to remove them. Some are resprouting a little bit, which if you cut them to the ground or something, they will regenerate. In general, they always do. This is just east of the whole park. These were willows. Wow. How could you do that to a willow tree?
Do you know if the roots are burned as well?
I bet they are.
Yeah, because when I was in Camarillo, the firemen were digging into the mountain and putting the fire out in the ground.
Right.
So the roots were burning.
And they try to say that's common. In a firestorm, and they're all pines, yes, there would be some burning in the roots, but the trunk would go at the same time. Because I've seen it, a hole in the ground 3 feet deep and giant holes going in every direction where the roots were. But that would be a sappy pine or eucalyptus even, not a willow. So greenery everywhere, and look at the trunks in all different locations. The flying embers again flew exactly to an extreme water level and did that damage. The one on the right, and their sprinklers are on right now. They keep this place very green. Yeah, I had my doubts about that when I saw the fire in May. Yeah,
I
and
have
it
my
started.
doubts too.
Yeah, it started above Highway 395, up on the side where the sagebrush is and pinyon pine. Oh, there's the Lombardy poplars. Why would they be dead? This is talking 80, 90 feet up. Why would they be dead up there? And from what? The whole row. Damning photograph. Yeah. Even now, if you walked out in the grass to the right, it'd be soggy and wet. These springs come out of the mountains in this area and just permeate everywhere. The peaks in this area there's a few over 12,000 feet. There's a few little residual glaciers up there. So there's always water coming down out of these creeks. Across the road I'm on, I think these were large willows. And these were good sized willows. You see the ground, all green.
What an interesting burn pattern on the bark there.
Yeah, up and down, I guess wherever the water is. And the highest water holding is, lower down in the trunk, lower limbs. So they seem to get it the worst. The poplars again. Just a very green park, as you can see. I didn't hide anything. I was like, where'd the fire come from? You could put a bonfire next to those trees and just try to burn them. You'd never accomplish this. It would take hours, maybe some days to get it to actually climb up 30 feet. It's not going to happen. Looks like that's the end of my presentation on these two fires. You have any questions?
No, it really reminds me of Camarillo.
Those are the two most recent fires I've looked at. I wasn't sure what to expect in this last one, but Chinese camp I pretty much already knew when I saw pictures on one of the main TV channels. I saw the eucalyptus, so I knew I had to go up there.
Do they still mine in that area?
A mine in that across, let's see, right in that area, there's a gold mine across the Highway 108 or 120. They share the roads there. It's a working gold mine.
Oh, it is.
or there's two locations in that area, but this is downtown, and it's, I don't know how many miles away from these mines. But like you say, it's historic. They can't do anything with it. They're protected. You can't even change a board or a nail. They really protect them, and you can't do anything with them. There's no profit to be made, and I'm sure you keep paying your taxes on this property. So who knows? That might be one of the reasons.
Yeah, that was kind of a interesting one because not a lot of structures lost. But you know what? Can you share the conversations you had?
The three different, one group of people, and one guy talked to me the most, and then two other ladies told me about the firemen that showed up 5 hours after the fire started.
Okay, did they say what they thought started the fire?
And actually, one of the ladies looked at me, and I told her through the window of her car, I said, "This isn't a normal fire at all." She said, "I know." And I asked her, "How do you know that?" And she says, "These were directed energy attacks." My mouth just
Wow.
wide. So we talked for a while, and she stayed there the whole time and watched the whole fire. The firemen only protected two places, she said, the post office and the little store there.
So there's no question to her what started it.
Yeah,
One person thought it was directed energy, but most think it's the dry lightning that they
right. And to me, I told her that's just the cover story. That's the
Mhm.
blanket thing that covers everything. No matter what, they'll say dry lightning did this.
Yeah.
Whatever this lightning's composition is, who knows if it's even natural at all. But they talked about that, and the firemen, of course, sitting in their trucks for they got there 5 hours late, sat in their trucks, did nothing, and the public unloaded their hoses and did their best to put out these fires. I don't know if the firemen finally helped them at some point. They probably did, but I guess they were told to stand down. Matt Dakin and John Lord, the two fire captains, heard a lot of this stuff also in previous fires like Santa Rosa and Paradise and others where they found out the firemen were told to stand down and back up a mile, get away from the fire and don't do anything and just wait for further orders a mile or two away.
Yeah,
Jeez.
hearing that in Palisades, they were at first they said the reservoir was out, so that's why they couldn't use the hose. But then later, someone came by to like do the inspection and told one of the residents, this has been full this whole time.
Oh,
And
wow.
then found out they were told not to turn the hose on, not to use
Wow.
it. And I
Yeah,
don't think they ever did. They just said there was no water in the reservoir, and that's been the official
right.
story. But we're hearing that's not the case.
For a few years now, my brother and I have been talking about our wildlands here. The most population in the Sierra Nevada is across this Highway 49. That's where all your population centers are, like Auburn, Placerville, Groveland, Columbia, Jamestown, and Sonora, and some other ones. And we knew, if anything, if they want to get rid of populations, it would be the Columbia, Sonora, Jamestown area, or Auburn, which has Highway 80. That's the fastest way to get out of state. If you're heading directly east from San Francisco, in 3 hours, you're going over, Donner Summit and heading east. The other ways around are a lot longer. It would stop all interstate commerce, and it's a well-populated area. So we
Mm.
kind of think they're going to direct these things towards our mother lode, take the mining towns out, and the biggest population centers in the whole Sierra Nevada. And that's just our guess. And here's the first one that took out historic buildings. It's the smallest, I think, out of all the towns.
Do you think they're gonna try to cut off roads and like
I
wait
do
for it to
believe
get
I
out?
do believe that Highway 80 would be first. There was the mosquito fire at Auburn, right across the Forestdale Bridge from Auburn. I happened to analyze that one. I've got great shots from 2 to 3 years ago. I thought that was going to do it, and they shut down all the roads around them when they do this. Uh,
Mm.
and
There's
Highway 50 is Placerville. That's the South Tahoe Road, which that would be second, and then the main road into Yosemite is Groveland. But let's just cross our fingers they don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a Highway 33 that goes into Big Bear that flooded, and is really affecting the economy because tourists can't get into Big Bear
Right.
the way they used to. So it seems to be happening a lot.
We have seen gold mines and uranium mines in other states that have burned, like in Nevada and Colorado, and even a lithium mine in Wyoming was burned by the Elk Fire.
Isn't that something? And I
Yeah.
think I saw your video on the Grand Canyon had some type of
Uranium.
something there. Uranium's
That
in.
was uranium. Yeah.
Yeah, they
That's
said they are
something.
going to open up those mines again.
Now that they've developed this type of technology, they can use it wherever they want, when they want, to achieve whatever their goals may be. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Robert, for sharing what you found. And I will link your previous video where you go into more of the science and kind of explain how these unusual burn patterns happen. So I'll put that in the description.
Well, thank you both for having me back.
Absolutely.
I wish it was for happier things,
I know. Well, I kind of gotten used to it.
I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. Please check out Robert's previous video and we will see you all soon.
Thank you.